one that can see.
There are no limits.
In shaping public policy on the toxicity of fluoride and the purported safety of the controversial water fluoridation program.
This brings us back to the fundamental point. Fluoride is safe, and I think I can say in conclusion that there is no health hazard that justifies postponing water fluoridation.
Researcher Philip Stadler, a chemist, Philip Stadler investigated. He did blood analysis and he measured high levels of fluoride in the blood of some of the injured and the deceased. He published that data along with data which found high levels of fluoride in vegetation and a lot of other circumstantial evidence indicating fluoride poisoning. Sadler published his research in Chemical and Engineering News, but the Public Health Service came in and said that fluoride wasn't responsible.
This is the farm of the late Paul Barcy and his son Paul Jr., successful cattle ranchers of Ferndale, Washington, 7 miles southeast of Birch Bay, close to the Canada-U.S. border. In 1966, Intalco built an aluminum smelter 1.5 miles from their farm. By 1968, the Barcys noticed that many of their animals were becoming debilitated, but they didn't realize until many months later that it was the fluoride emissions from Intalco's smelter which were poisoning their cattle, causing damage to plants and in some cases killing their trees.
Fluoride defenders will say there's two stories. There's the industrial story and there's the dental story, and ne'er the twain shall meet. It's not true. The stories are braided very tightly and very profoundly, and they're braided from the beginning.
This mandible on the left was from a cow brought to the Barcy farm after the 2 incisors had formed. These teeth are the only ones not poisoned. The rest are poisoned by fluoride and are worn down to the nerves, making it extremely painful for the animal to eat or to drink cold water. On the right, we have a cow exposed from birth on the Barcy farm, and as you can see, all the teeth are worn down to the nerves. Here the cows are drinking as a dog would drink, trying to warm the water with their tongues to lessen the pain of cold water against exposed nerves. For comparison, the cow drinking on the left has normal teeth and is sucking in water in the normal way. This is a side view of the lower jaw of an animal exposed from birth. Some teeth are completely worn down to the gums. We know that trees can absorb poisonous gaseous fluoride and sulfur dioxide through the stomata. However, the fluoride can be up to 1,000 times more toxic. Animals and people can absorb gaseous fluoride into the bloodstream from the lungs, and fluoride through the intestines from the food they eat and water they drink. Millions of pounds are still used in agriculture in the herbicide trifluralin and as a poison for predator control in a product known as 1080. In 1970, they commissioned the late Dr. C.C. Gordon, head of the Botany Department, University of Montana, to conduct a study in preparation for a damage suit against Intalco. The case went to court in 1972, and the Barcys were awarded $83,000 in damages. They felt this was an insufficient award and decided to appeal. The appeal court was held in 1975, and they were awarded $177,150, as follows. Discomfort and annoyance, Paul Barcy Sr., $125,000. Discomfort and annoyance, Paul Barcy Jr., $25,000. Damage to cattle, $18,150. Loss of use of property, $9,000. These 8mm films were taken by Paul Barcy Jr. and were used in the Barcy's suit against Intalco. You can see that these animals find it very painful to walk. This is caused by the bony outgrowths on the bones called exostosis and the calcification of the ligament. In 1937, Dr. K. Rohom published his monumental study of chronic fluoride poisoning Cryolite is sodium aluminum fluoride. It contains 54% fluorine, a pale yellow, highly poisonous gas. Under normal circumstances, the ore is relatively insoluble. But Roham found that the workers were swallowing the dust, and the hydrochloric acid of the stomach made it more soluble. The fluoride is absorbed into the bloodstream through the intestines. Some is excreted, principally by the kidneys, and the rest is taken out of the general circulation and deposited in the bones, as are other toxic substances such as lead, mercury, and strontium-90. Gaseous fluoride can also be absorbed through the respiratory system and through the skin, and dietary deficiencies compounds the problem. Here we have a picture of dental fluorosis. Upper left, a normal dentition. The others are the teeth of the children of female cryolite workers. The children were suckled for long periods, 1 to 2 years, and were poisoned through the mother's milk. This is an example of osteosclerosis, over-mineralization of the columna. The normal spine is on the left. Note the gap between the vertebrae. The center picture is osteosclerosis of the second phase. Here the ligaments are partly calcified. Extreme right is the third phase. Even the cartilage between the vertebrae is partly calcified. This is osteosclerosis of the final stage. Note the vertebrae are all fused together in one solid bone. This is a male cryolite worker employed for 12 years. He has no mobility of the spine, and this condition is called pokerback.
The very first suggestion that fluoride be added to public water supplies was made by a researcher, Gerald Cox, at the Mellon Institute in Pittsburgh. Cox became interested in fluoride because of the suggestion of Francis Frary. That's the letter I uncovered. Francis Frary is the director of the aluminum laboratory for the Aluminum Company of America. He is very concerned about fluoride pollution around aluminum plants. He's very concerned about what the fluoride is doing to the workers inside these aluminum plants. But his suggestion to Gerald Cox is to look at fluoride's dental effects. And it's upon the basis of that suggestion that Gerald Cox makes his proposal to add fluoride to public water supplies. Right at the very source of the stream, you find the aluminum industry.
Had it not been for the superhuman efforts of the late environmentalist Dr. C.C. Gordon, the situation would be much worse.
Of those plants which accumulate fluoride, some do not show visible injury. Grasses are such a type of a plant. Also, you have garden vegetables such as lettuce that do not show visible injury. The animals that consume this vegetation that shows no injury will accumulate this fluoride from ingesting this type of vegetation. Here is a leg bone of a normal deer. Here you have very smooth bone tissue. Here is an abnormal bone. It's called a fluoritic bone. Instead of a smooth surface over the bone, you have these spines. These spines will dig into the flesh. This causes the animal to become lame, and he will have a tendency not to move around as rapidly. Fluoride accumulation also causes an abnormal change in the teeth of animals. For instance, you have a jawbone here from a deer that had accumulated excessive amounts of fluoride. This rapid wearing of the top of the teeth here exposes the nerves. This occurs in most all wild indigenous animals that consume the forage containing the fluorides, and it also happens to domestic animals such as cows.
It's important to realize that fluoride pollutants from industry are the source of fluoride for the artificial fluoridation of communal water supplies. The United States Environmental Protection Agency considers this an ideal use. In a letter to Dr. L.A. Russell, the agency states, in regard to the use of fluosilicic acid as a source of fluoride for fluoridation, this agency regards such use as an ideal environmental solution to a long-standing problem. By recovering byproduct fluosilicic acid from fertilizer manufacturing, water, and air pollution are minimized, and water utilities have a low-cost source of fluoride available to them. Canada's National Research Council, however, has another opinion. In their publication, Environmental Fluoride, under the section Toxic Effects, they have this to say: undesirable side effects, i.e. dermatological, gastrointestinal, and neurological symptoms, were seen in 1% of a group of children and pregnant women ingesting 1 to 1.2 milligrams of fluoride per day in tablet form. The same symptoms have since been observed in people who had adverse reactions after using fluoride-containing toothpaste. If you're concerned about the intake of this dangerous industrial pollutant through the air you breathe, the food you eat, and through your water supply to which it has been added, ask yourself the question, is there a safe daily dose? Scientists point out that some individuals are far more sensitive to fluoride poisoning than others, and there are eminent authorities who say there is no safe dose.
Cox's suggestion that we add fluoride to public water supplies needs to be understood for who was saying it and where he was saying it and what the track record of the Mellon Institute was. The Mellon Institute was a leading defender of asbestos for the asbestos industry. You know, today, industry are facing a tidal wave, a crippling tidal wave of lawsuits from people who have had their health damaged, who've been killed by asbestos. Well, for generations, the Mellon Institute produced research that said that mesothelioma was caused by something other than asbestos. That's how you have to understand the fluoride issue. Industry was concerned about fluoride pollution and about lawsuits of a similar magnitude for fluoride pollution. So it's no coincidence that the Mellon Institute makes the first suggestion that fluoride be added to public water supplies.
As far back as 1968, fluoride emissions in the United States from major industrial sources alone was estimated by the National Academy of Sciences, Washington, D.C., to total 118,700 tons.
And he gave me the names of Dr. William Hersey, who then and now is a chemist at the Environmental Protection Agency, and Dr. Robert J. Carton. Bob Carton had been with EPA, but at that time was then over at the U.S. Army. And I went down to Washington and met with Dr. Hersey and Dr. Carton, and they explained to me that the safety standards for water fluoridation in this country are based on fraudulent science.